Hello, everyone, and welcome to Paranormal Roundtable, PRT for short. My name is Josh Turner, also known as Wolf, and with me today in the studio is Tony,
also known as Mushu.
Mushu, the Hamburglar.
The Hamburglar, huh? That hurts.
Well, I was going to say that because you got upset when I said Mushu pork and General Tso's chicken, so I figured...
I didn't get upset. I thought those were perfectly fine.
Okay.
I just don't like that you calling me sweet and sour pork. I prefer sweet and sour Mushu, as I stated.
Okay. I was going to use beef because I thought you were offended by the poultry and the pork. So anyway, Zane's in the studio. You want to say hello, Zane?
Hello. How's everybody doing?
And we have a guest tonight, and we're going to be doing some talking. But first, let me get the email address out. It's daswolfman88@gmail.com. daswolfman88@gmail.com, and our website
is prtpodcast.com. prtpodcast.com. Go check it out if you want to look at some artwork, or if you want to watch all our previous episodes, or if you just want to look at catch a link to the PayPal or merch store. We have a lot of cool stuff on there. We would appreciate it if you check it out.
Okay. And as you all know, you guys are welcome to leave comments or whatever, anytime on any of our, groups or any of the YouTube, whatever. But then, you can always catch these hands too. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, I don't know you in real life. I guess I won't be able to find you and beat you up. But if I do, I will. And so anyways, anybody who wants to leave negative comments, remember that. Believe that. Wanted to talk real quick about our groups. Paranormal Roundtable is the main group.
Paranormal Encounters and Paranormal Lounge.
Yep.
The two competing.
Apparently, there's a competition now between Nelly's Paranormal Lounge and Tony's Paranormal Encounters.
And I'm losing, unfortunately.
Well, yeah.
At this point,
he's losing. But
I believe in my supporters.
Okay. So anyways, that's what's going on, those two. And then we have Cryptids and Paranormal Reality, which is Lori Shivers. And then we have our buddy Michael Moran, who
Cryptid
sometimes is on the show, is he's tripped me up. Cryptid Squad, which is growing by leaps and bounds. He runs a really good group. Everybody likes it. We're also really good friends with the guys over at the Dogman werewolf discussion, Venomous Fringe, a few other groups that we're friends with. And so check those out and enjoy the groups and post and have a good time. I want to send a shout out to some of the guys that are posting things all the time, like John Gerlach. That guy is like a posting machine, dude. Dav Quinn, all the groups I'm in, Dav's always posting things. Those guys are always real active in the groups. And Sam Rodriguez, he's always got some pretty cool stories. We're gonna have him on the show. But with that out of the way, all the pleasantries, whatever. Evelina is from. You want to introduce yourself, Evelina?
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah. Do you want to tell people where you're from?
I'm from Sweden, in a small town called Umeå.
Oh, Umeå. Oh, yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah. That is a very small town because I've never heard of it. Even
very small town. Yes, yeah. It's high. It's in the north of Sweden.
Ooh, it must be cold.
Very high up.
Wow, yeah. It must stay cold there like year round.
I bet you it's beautiful.
Not almost year round, but now it's May, so we start to have like a little bit of summer, but it's almost cold all the year round. So.
Man. I bet you have a few days probably in July and August where it's temperate, and then that's about it. Yeah.
Pretty much.
I got some friends that live in northern Alaska. Well, not some friends. It was one of my weirdo friends went up there to live, to be weird. And he's living in the sub-zero temperatures, and I'm like, wow, that's great. Once a year he gets on Facebook and says hi, but whatever. It's his life. It's whatever. But so... Tell me a little bit about your life. What do you do there? What do you do for a living?
I work at a beauty salon. So I do massage and nails and teeth bleaching and hair and a lot of beauty things.
Mm-hmm. And you guys have been open during all this pandemic stuff, right?
Yeah, we have tried to be open. In Sweden, we don't have really lockdown in Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
Some cities are under lockdown, but up here in Umeå, they say that we can be open as long as the people who work there, the staff and the customers are healthy, and that they don't come in if they feel like any symptom of sickness, or like if they feel a cough or anything. We say that they should book a new time to see what happens. Because we don't want to get sick.
Yeah, absolutely. So first you spray them with Lysol, and then you throw hydrochloric acid on them, and then they fall backwards out into the street, and then you kick them.
Yeah, you just bleach them real quick. She also gets those teeth.
If they survive all of that, then they might be worthy to come back. And I'm just kidding.
That's only America.
Is that only happening here in Texas? I don't know. So you're living way up there. What is the altitude?
I don't really know the altitude, but we are really I think it's about, I don't know the altitude actually, but we are really high up. So we are close to a lot of mountains.
I couldn't live there. My blood pressure would be through the roof. That's crazy. I don't even like going up in the mountains in Colorado. I can imagine being up there near the Arctic. So that I have to say something about Sweden. What I do know about Sweden, I know that it's in between Finland and Norway, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's considered the heart of Scandinavia. I believe it's y'all three, and then Denmark kind of round out the Scandinavian countries. I guess Iceland could be kind of like a token Scandinavian country too, sort of.
Sort of.
Yeah, and so you guys, a lot of people don't know that that's what Scandinavia is, and they don't even know, what it is. Pretty much the Danes, the Finns, the Swedes, and the Norwegians. And so you live way up in the north in a small town.
Yep.
And is this where the activity took place?
Both. In our new house that we have in Umeå, we have had some activity. But I lived in a really small place called Vindeln, and it's about an hour from Umeå. And when I lived out there with my husband in his old house, and that was a really old house, I think it was built during the 1990s, no, 1900s. So in the beginning of the 1900s, and that was where the most activity happened because it was such an old house. And at that point, we lived like out in the woods. We had, I think, nearest neighbor were like 30 minutes away. So it will be like 3 kilometers away to the nearest neighbor. And they didn't live in their house all year round. They only lived there in the summer. So during winter, we had could be like 50 minutes to nearest neighbor. So we lived right out in the woods.
We
had horses.
Yeah, you're way out in the country.
We had like horses and sheep, and we had like farm animals. We had a farm. So, and there was a lot of strange things happening on that farm.
So the closest neighbor was a little over 1.5 miles away, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because that's the metric system that everyone uses but us. So, which is like whatever. America's like, nah, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna drive on this side of the road. So that's kind of how it is. So let me get this straight. First of all, what time is it over there? Because it's almost 8:00 p.m. over here. What time is it over there where you're at?
Almost 3 a.m.
3 a.m. I said it was 2 something. I was close.
You were wrong.
Okay, it's because it's almost 3 a.m. It was 2 something. I said earlier. We were trying to get set up, and I'm sorry that you have to do the interview in the dead of night. But
no, it's okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. You only have kids and a life; it doesn't matter. But I'm messing with it. Yeah, I know you got things to do, so let's get this rolling. So the question I have, okay, you said that this was the first house that you lived in was out in the country, and that's where now is this where the first activity happened to you and your husband?
Yes, this is where the first activity happened. And my husband had bought that house back in 1999, I think, because he's 10 years older than me, so he has lived there for like forever. And he actually said that before I moved in, some things had happened, but he never really thought about them as ghostly activity or that sort of thing. He said that he had heard like piano music from downstairs when he was upstairs, and he said that he had heard like shuffling in the kitchen, like someone was shuffling something on the desk or benches in the kitchen, and the shuffling of chairs, and like just sound of like people moving around, people talking. And the thing was that when I moved in there, I moved in with him back in 2011 in September, I think. And the first time when I came into his house, I immediately felt that there's a presence here, because I can feel that sort of things. So I felt that there is a presence here, but it didn't felt like anything was evil or menacing, or it didn't feel bad from the beginning. And then I think it was, I try to remember, I think it was the third night I spent in this house. I actually heard music from downstairs. I heard classic music, like flute music and piano music, and like classic music. So I woke up by that, and we had our bedroom right above the kitchen. So I woke up by hearing this music, and I thought to myself first that, well, we have kept the radio on, or the radio is on, because we had a radio in the kitchen. So I first thought that, well, the radio is on. So I walked out from our bedroom into, like, it's not a living room really, it's like a small passageway, but we had it as a living room. It's more like a passage room. And then I walked down the stairs, and as I came, I think halfway down the stairs, I just heard how the music like stopped, like, and nothing more sounded. So I thought that was really odd. So I just went down, looked in the kitchen. Nothing was there. Everything, the table and the chairs, everything stood as we had left it before we went to bed. And I went over to the counter and checked the radio, and the radio was off. So it couldn't have been the radio. And then we had been together for, I think, a year when this happened. And I've always been like, not, how should I put it? I have been like a little bit afraid to tell people that I can like see ghosts, hear ghosts, and feel energy. And like, I just been afraid to tell people that I'm open to the paranormal, because at least here in Sweden, the paranormal and ghosts and Dogman and everything that is paranormal, people aren't so open about it here because they think you're crazy.
Right.
Most of the times. So people are like, but it often happened to me that when I start to talk about that I'm open to the paranormal, I've seen stuff, I've been through stuff, people start talking. But if you would like ask someone, does anything strange have happened to you, or do you have had an encounter with something? They were like, no, not really, and you're crazy. So I was afraid to tell my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, that I heard this sound, that I heard this music from downstairs. So I like checked the radio, went upstairs again, and went to bed. But for, I think it was like 4 days in a row from that day, I heard this music every night on the same time, almost like a clock. Like, I heard it between, I think it was midnight and 2 in the morning, 4 days in a row. And I think it was the third day, my husband woke up, and I asked him, because he woke me up, and he asked me, do you hear a sound? And I told him, yes, I hear a sound. And then he said, and I saw he was like, he got pale in his face, like really white.
Can I ask you a question? I'm sorry. I mean, I'm sorry to interrupt, but like, before you go any further, I have a question, and it's kind of bothering me. Like, did he not experience anything before you came?
No, actually, no, he didn't.
Okay.
He did experience some things. As he did experience some things. He had heard this classical music, and he had heard like chairs moving, and he had seen stuff move. But he was skeptical to the paranormal before I came. But it like escalated when I moved into the house, because he told me that later, that when he woke me up the third day like, because this music went on for a week. And the third day of that week, he woke me up and said to me, like, Evelina, do you hear this sound? And I said, yes, I do. And he said, what do you hear? And I said, I hear classical music from downstairs, from the kitchen. And he said, that's crazy, because I hear exactly the same thing. So in that moment, we both heard this classical music. And that was the first time he told me that he had heard this classical music before. So that was, it was like, that was when it began, that we both started to hear things and see things. But I'm the more open one, so I think I saw it more and heard sounds, and I think I picked up on the activity more than he did, because he was still skeptical, because after he had asked me when we woke up if I heard those sounds, if I heard this classical music, he said, oh, but it's just the radio.
Right.
And I felt like I had to tell him that I had checked the radio 3 times in a row, like 3 days in a row. So I said, I have checked the radio 3 times in a row, like three days in a row. And I said, it's not the radio, because the radio is always off. And then he got really scared and he said, oh, I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to disturb whatever this is. So he got really scared the first time things started to happen.
So that had never happened before, like with the radio
No, that had
thing.
never. No.
Okay, because so the radio thing just started when you got there. Do you think that maybe you brought that?
Yeah, I think I do. I mean, in every house that I lived in, I have brought with me something. I don't think it's evil or menacing or anything, but I know I can bring things with me, because I'm like a magnet to spirits and entities and like energy. So I know that I have brought something with me. And I also know that if there is activity in a house or a place or whatever, and I walk in, the activity will spike. That has happened so many times. So I know, I feel like I don't know what I'm doing, but my energy does something to spike the activity.
I was gonna ask.
So I think
because I was curious about if, like, maybe it's not maybe you bring it along, but maybe that since they can sense that you're sensitive, that they will amp up their activity because they can tell that you notice it.
Right. Try and get your attention.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my conclusion too. That the spirits or entities or whatever this is, they feel like that I'm open, because I need to be open all the time, because I have tried with some help to close myself down to feel anything, like to feel normal, as I used to say. But every time I have tried to close myself down from like spirits and the paranormal and energies and so forth, things have gotten really crazy. Then the activity has spiked really, really bad sometimes. Like they really want my attention.
Right.
And that's been really scary sometimes.
So, and that was the first house that you had the activity in, right?
Yeah, it was a farmhouse. Yeah.
So but this has been something that's gone on your entire life, or just okay. So we should have started from birth when you were first
All
born.
right.
Chapter 1, I was born. So can you tell us, give me your first paranormal experience that you can think of as a child?
My first paranormal experience that I clearly remember is when I was about 4 years old, and this was back in 1994. And back at this time, I lived with my mother and my father and my baby brother in an old house. Or the house wasn't really old. They built them back in like the 1960s. And they built them for workers, because we lived in a really small community, smaller than Umeå. And they had some sort of factory there, and then they built houses around that factory. for the factory workers. But then in the 1980s, they started to remodel the workers' homes because they wanted more families to move there, families with kids, because they wanted a school and they wanted more stores and they wanted to like expand the community. And my mom and my dad, they bought this house really cheap, really cheap for being like in Sweden. And they moved in and we lived there happily, I think. And but there was one time when things started to happen, and I was 4 years old at that time, and I have to like give a layout of the house because we had this house was a house with like a main floor and an upper floor and a stair between the floors, and this house had been 2 apartments. So you had one apartment on the upper floor and one apartment on the downstairs floor. But when they remodeled, they kept the downstairs apartment, but they remodeled the upstairs apartment to bedrooms. And we had 2 doors into this house. So we had like the main door, and when you went into the main door, you came into a small hallway, and then was a passage to a really big hallway. And then you had the living room and the kitchen, like side by side, or they faced each other, and a small bedroom. And then you had like the other door that went from the outside and inside to the house. You came directly into the laundry, and where we kept our wood, because in Sweden we usually warm up the house with a wooden stove, but
Right.
a really big one. And you could walk from the laundry area to the kitchen. And upstairs, when you went upstairs, you had my mom and dad's bedroom, and they were like an open space bedroom. They didn't have walls. You like walked right up to their bedroom, and to the left of their bedroom was a small bedroom with like this really big walk-in closet / storage space. It was like a closet in the beginning, and then it narrowed off to like a storage area. And that room became my room when I was 4 years old, because my baby brother and I used the downstairs bedroom as a playroom. And he slept with my mom and dad still in his bed, beside their beds. And I got this spooky room because I remember that the first time I was going to sleep in that room as a 4-year-old, I felt really scared because I felt that there was something. I never felt alone in that room. And my mom and dad had tried to make it like really nice with My Little Pony and pink things and all girly things, but I never liked the room. I didn't even like to play there with my toys because I felt like I was watched and that something was standing behind me. But this particular day I remember very well because my mom and my grandmother on my mother's side, they were downstairs in the kitchen with my baby brother, and I was upstairs in my room playing, and I always had the door to my room open. I never closed it because I felt that if I closed it, something was going to happen. I just had that feeling that I need to have the door open. And the closet door that went into this walk-in closet and then to the storage space, I always had closed because I felt that something. Well, I know that I told my grandmother one time that I felt like someone is living in there. I said it to her, like, there's someone who's living in there. But there was nothing. It was like clothes and boxes and stuff we didn't use. But at this particular day, I think it was in July or June. It must be in July because it was really, really hot outside. So my mom had opened the back door to our house so she could get like the breeze in because we didn't have really good air condition. And I was upstairs playing, and in my room, my window was the window from the door that had been there, because when that part of the house was an apartment, you walked into my room. My room was like the hallway, and then you came into the rest of the apartment. So my window was the window from the old door, but there was no handle left, and they had like built in the door into the wall. And there had been stairs from outside up to my room, but there was no stairs when we lived there. And I remember that I was playing in my room with my toys, and I had my back towards the door to the closet, and I just suddenly felt that something was standing behind me. I just felt that I wasn't alone, and I remember that I felt like it got cold, and I got like these goosebumps, like the hair on my arms stood right up and the hair on my neck stood right up. And I felt that something is standing behind me. So I turned around, and and when I turned around, I saw that the door to the closet was opened, and the light bulb inside was lit, and in this doorway stood an old man.
Mm.
And I saw him clear as day. So I thought it was like a person, because I didn't think it was a ghost, because I didn't really know what, I mean, ghost for a 4-year-old in Sweden was like, we had a little ghost that was like a sheet with eyes that we called
Right.
it was like a sheet book. So I thought that ghosts were like white sheets with black eyes. That was a ghost. So I thought it was a person. So I looked at him, and I remember how he looked. He was really old and wrinkly in his face, and I could see all the wrinkles in his face. I could see like that his skin was like weathered, so like he's been outside or something.
Right.
And he had like and he must have been like 60 or 70 years old, I think. He looked really old. And he had this like blue jeans worker's cap on his head. I don't know how to describe it. It was like an old worker's cap.
Like an old denim hat, maybe?
Yeah, like
Okay.
an old denim hat. And then he had a blue and white shirt, but it was like white with light blue stripes on it. And he had like this suit vest or a like a suit vest on him. And then he had like this blue jeans or denim work jeans.
Yeah.
Just describe it. And he just stood there and looked at me, and I looked at him, and then he said that I want to talk to your mother. And I was like, okay, because I thought it was a person. So I said, okay, I'm gonna go down and get my mommy. So I got up from the floor, went out to my parents' bedroom, got down the stairs, and went into the kitchen to where my grandmother, my baby brother, and my mother was. And I told my mother, I said, Mom, there's a uncle upstairs who wants to talk to you. Because in Sweden, I need to explain that, because in Sweden, if you meet an older person and you don't know them, we say uncle or aunt to them. It's like a nice way to treat an older person.
Okay, kind of like a respect thing.
Yeah, it's similar in Vietnamese.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, a respect thing. So I said to my mom, I said, there's an uncle upstairs who want to talk to you. And she got really scared because she thought that there was a real person who had come inside the house and was upstairs with her daughter. I mean, who wouldn't get scared? She was like freaked out because she had the back door opened, and you could actually go through the house through the back door. Like if you went in through the back door, you could sneak past the kitchen without her seeing you and then walk up the stairs. So she thought that someone had got into the house.
Yeah.
So she told me that stay with grandma and don't make a sound, and I'm gonna go up and talk to this man. So she went upstairs, and this part I don't remember because I was I didn't see it myself because I was in the kitchen with my grandmother. But my grandmother told me later, when I was like 14, when we talked about this, what my mom told her happened upstairs in my room. So my mom, she went up the stairs to my bedroom, and she walked in, And when she walked in the room, there was no one there. The closet door was closed and the light bulb inside was off, because she said she checked the closet because she thought that someone could be in the closet. So she looked in the closet and there was no one there. And she looked under my bed and she looked like she searched the house, so the upstairs of the house, because she thought that someone could be hiding. And then she got really angry at me because I had scared her. So she went down and said to me that there was no one there. What are you talking about? And I said to her, but I saw a man or an old man. And I said, and I started to describe him for my mother, but she got mad and said that that's your imagination. You can't say things like that. I was really scared. Think if there was someone, and I thought that there wasn't. We have like or how can you say it? We have like an old saying in Sweden that you don't call wolf for nothing.
Right.
And that
right.
means that you shall not call wolf for nothing. So she thought that I was just making this up to get attention or whatever. But I described this old man to my grandmother, and as I said later, when I was 14 and I discussed this with my grandmother, she said that what I had described was probably a worker from the factory that was placed in our community. And she said that she knew that there had been accidents where people had died in that factory, but this was way back in time. And in Sweden, in like the 1940s and 1930s and way back, they didn't put out so much in the papers. They could say they didn't put out so much in the papers. They could say that an accident had happened at this factory and 2 people died or 2 workers died. But she knew that there were people who had died. So she said that probably I saw someone who had died. And I think that why he may wanted to talk to my mother is because my mom is really open to this stuff too. She's been open as me her whole life to the paranormal, but she doesn't want to believe in it. She doesn't want to see it. She don't want to deal with it. So she's like, she doesn't want to do anything with it. So I think that was maybe why he wanted to talk to my mom, because maybe he couldn't talk to me because I was like a child or something. I don't know, but I know that she's open too. So that was my thought on that. But that is my first memory that I can really remember.
Did you ever see him again?
No, never. No, I don't think so.
But that happened when you were really young. I mean, like you were tiny, and then but you didn't see him again, that particular ghost or entity or whatever it was. But you saw other things, right? Like throughout your life.
Yeah, I've seen a lot in my life.
So let me ask you this then: what is the scariest one? Give us the really meat and potatoes one that really scared the heck out of you.
This one. I think that must have been the Ethereal Dogman that I saw back in our apartments. Really.
And you were living in an apartment when that happened?
No, I was living in the farmhouse.
Farmhouse. I'm sorry, I thought you said apartments. I was about to say, wow, they're popping up in the apartments. The farmhouse is different. Yeah, the farmhouses are always haunted. That's just part of it. That's part of the mystique.
That's just old land.
It's part of the charm. Yeah. You got the goats, the sheep, and the ghosts.
Lots of history.
I mean, every farmhouse I've ever been around has been haunted. I mean, I can tell you that. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, you want to tell us about this Ethereal Dogman? That's something that Zane can relate to.
Yeah, because I, up till now, I didn't really think that it was an Ethereal Dogman. I thought it was like a demon or something. Because I have had encounters with demons too.
Whoa.
Or not like really seeing them, but I never in Sweden. I can go through this quickly. In Sweden, we call Ouija boards spirit in the glass.
Okay.
And when I was like 14, 15, 16, and this is back in like from 2004 to 2006, there was this to play with like the spirit in the glass, and Ouija boards was really a thing among
Ouija
my
boards.
friends. Yes, Ouija boards. And I told my friends that you should not play with that stuff because I said it's not good. It's
really quickly, I don't want to derail you, but like, let me explain to the folks at home what's going on. When she said Ouija boards, because you're pronouncing the J's as like yeah, or like that's kind of a YU thing, isn't it? Like Bjork is the J is like York.
JA is like the Y for us, I think.
Yeah, but yeah, she means Ouija board.
Yeah, Ouija board. Because earlier you were saying blue jeans, and so that just for folks at home, that's the way that they pronounce their J's. Almost like how in Spanish you pronounce the J as an H. So in Sweden, that's how they pronounce their J's. So then, just to explain to people when you're talking.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I'm sorry for doing that, but a lot of people wouldn't have caught that you said you were talking about a Ouija board.
Yes, Ouija boards.
Mm-hmm.
But we call it spirit in the glass because usually you have like you make your own board with like a big sheet of paper, and then you write numbers on the top, and then you write letters like spread all over, and then you write like a circle with yes and a circle with no, and then you can write a circle with maybe, and then all the people who takes part of this, they hold their finger on the glass, and then the glass moves around on the board. But usually it's one person who moves the glass. But my friends did this at my house that my dad lived in back in 2004. And my dad obviously lived in a haunted house because every house I lived in is haunted. So, and that house was also really creepy. But that house was actually in the middle of the city, but it was like worn down and it was really ugly. You felt like the house was really sad. Everything was like worn down. I can't describe it. Deteriorated. And we did this spirit in a glass in we had like a real big living room, and we did the spirit in the glass in that living room. And one of my friends, she actually got scratched. Like you could see like how it looked like claws had scratched her on the side of her neck, really, really bad.
Were they 3?
Like they were 3. Yes, because I wasn't in the room at that time because I felt that something was. I felt that something was going to happen, and then I felt like I just felt like I shouldn't be here. This is not good. This is bad. And I started to hear things like rumbling upstairs, like something was running back and forth on the upstairs, because you heard it in the ceiling, like something was running on all fours, like from one end of the room back to another and back again. And then after that happened, I went out in the kitchen instead of being in the living room with them, and that was when she got scratched or clawed on her neck, and there was 3 really deep scratches, and they drew blood. And she got really, really, really upset and really scared, and she didn't want to be there anymore. So that was a scary thing too. But the scariest part was this ethereal dogman that I encountered at our farm.
Before you get into that, let me tell you something about that 3 and to explain to people at home. The significance of that is that a lot of times when there's demonic activity, there are people who say, I would say demonologists, I would say people who are into exorcisms, the church, different people. people who are supposed experts in the field of this, whatever, which I guess they're not really any real experts because we don't always know what we're dealing with. But there are people who claim to be experts anyway. The significance to that is that the three is a mockery of the Trinity. Like there is Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit, and of course God the Father, God the Son, and the Holy Ghost, and supposedly that the demonic three claws is the mockery of that. That's also why there is the 3 a.m. Supposedly Christ was killed on the cross on Calvary, and he was killed at 3:00 p.m. And so a lot of this, it's an inversion of the Holy Trinity, and it's also an inversion of the time that he died. So that is significant that it was three. The claw marks on the neck. That has been something that has come up again and again in my studies of what I've found in demonic obsession. If you guys go back to Evelina, I know you're a listener of the show. I'm sure you heard the episodes we did with the Atrastains. I don't know exactly what episode numbers they are, but there's three of them. Here it is again, three. But we did three shows with them. And we talk about that. It's actually episodes 63, 64, and 65. And I believe Rick Atrastain touches on that in those episodes, why that is important and what that means. So, yeah, you were dealing with something demonic. And so this ethereal Dogman you saw, tell us about that.
Well, this happened back in 2017, and this was in our old house, the farmhouse. And I have to say that I think that what may have caused this was that me and my husband went through a rough patch in our relationship back then, and there was some stuff going on family-wise and with family and friends, and there was just a lot of things going on. And I know that our negative energy may have spiked the energy in the house because all the activity and the haunting got worse when we were fighting. And when this happened, I think this must have been in September of 2017. So, and in September it's fall in Sweden, but it gets really dark during the days really fast. I think that in September it's dark by 3 p.m.
Jeez.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're close to the northern hemisphere.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, but it's just crazy to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and during the winter we only have sunlight from 10 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon. Then it's dark. So
how do you cope with that?
I don't know.
You know what? How they cope with this? Sweden just really enjoys the nightlife. They just accept it.
I mean, that would be the place for vampires to live for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because it's just always dark. Anyways, proceed.
Yeah, so it was dark in this time because this was in September and was late on the evening. I think the clock was around 6 or 7 in the evening, and my husband wasn't actually home when this happened. I was home with my kids alone, and this happened when our daughter was just born, so she was just a baby, and my son, he was 2 years old, I think, 2.5. So, but they were upstairs sleeping, and I have to give like a little bit a layout of our farmhouse. We had like this big front porch that went up to like with stairs, and then you had like a big front porch, and then you have like the door into the house, and the door had like 2 small glass windows. They were really thin, and like 2 small glass windows. And we don't have doorknobs in Sweden. We have handles, like this French handles, or we have like handles, not doorknobs.
Right.
And when you came in through the door, you had a small hallway, and then the stairs to the staircase was directly to your left. And under the staircase, we had like this small storage storage room that we didn't use for anything. And there was the hallway, and then you had a small passage to your right where you came into another hallway, and then it was the kitchen in front of that, and then if you just went through the hallway, you had our living room and then the bathroom. And if you went upstairs, we had, this is the most scary part. We had a window we had a window on the wall that the staircase was attached to. So every time you passed down the staircase or up the staircase, you could look right out this window.
Mm.
And that was that was the first place that I saw this ethereal dogman that was in that window. But I will come to that later. And when you walked up the stairs, you had like a small hallway, a small bedroom that we used for office, I think. And then we had our living room, and then you had our bedroom. So our master bedroom was right above the kitchen. And at this night, my husband was away. He was away shooting guns because he likes guns. He has a lot of them.
Good man.
Feel well here in Texas.
Yeah, he really likes guns. So he was he was away on the shooting. Where they shoot guns, I don't know what they named them, but so he was away shooting guns with some friends, and I was alone in the house, and I had been alone in this house many times. And even though things have happened in this house, I never felt really afraid because I knew that I could handle it, because I learned from my grandmother that if you say that you can say to the ghost, and you can say to the ghost, and you can say to entities that leave me alone, I don't want to deal with this right now. Like you can ask them to go if they're nice. If
Right.
they're not nice, they won't care. So
Yeah.
but she said that you can always ask them to leave if they are family members or just something that wants to connect with you. You can always ask them to leave.
Right.
So I felt like I had that that was my security, that I knew that I could ask them to leave.
Your shield, as it were.
And
Yeah, because they weren't malicious, so they wouldn't.
Right,
They would just
no,
leave her
they
alone.
weren't malicious. Yeah, so if they weren't malicious, they would leave me alone. If something happened and I said, I don't want to deal with this right now, go away, the activity would stop for a while, maybe a day or two, but it would stop for a while. But at this night, as I said, my husband was away shooting guns, and I was alone with the kids in the house. And I had put them to bed, and that was around 7 o'clock in the evening. And then I was it was dark at this time. So I thought that, well, I knew my husband would be late, because when he's shooting guns, they shoot guns really, really, they take their time. so I knew he was going to be late. So I thought that I was going to go down in the kitchen, put everything away and lock the door and just make everything ready for go to bed. Put the dishes away and then turn the lights off, because we always did that. We turn the lights off when we go to bed. So I did that, and as I was in the kitchen, we had on this farmhouse, we had a front porch, and then we had a back porch or a veranda, or a really large deck, wood deck.
Okay.
Yeah, outside. And that deck went from one end of the house, from one end of the kitchen, all the way around to the other. So it's like an L shape around the house.
Okay, so it was a wraparound.
Yeah, a wraparound.
Cool.
And we used to sit out there when we had dinners, and in summer we used to sit out there and have barbecue and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And in this kitchen at the farmhouse, we had 3 windows. 2 windows faced out to the deck, and 1 window faced down to the pasture where we had the animals. So you can see the horses and the sheep, you can see them from the kitchen. And 1 window we had facing the woods. And from our house to the wood line was 1 meter, I think.
Mhm.
The woods were really, really close.
Yeah.
And as I stood in the kitchen, and I had put everything away, and I was standing in the window facing the pasture, because we had the bench when you can wash your dishes and wash your dishes.
Yeah.
We have that under that window, so when you stood in and did the dishes, you could look out to see if the horses were okay and the sheep were okay. So I stood there and did what I always do, like made the dishes and so on. And then I heard like a really loud thud, like something jumping up on the deck. At first I thought that it could be one of our cats, because we had a lot of cats back then. But in the next moment I felt like it was a really big thud. So I thought that a wild animal, like a normal wild animal, because we live like out in the forest. We have animals around us all the time. But it was dark, so I didn't see anything. So I decided to go to the wall behind me and switch the light off with the light switch. So I went back to that wall and switched the light off, because then you can easily see out the window. So I stood there and looked and didn't see anything. So I thought that, well, there was my imagination, or it was just something like an animal or something normal. So I did everything I had to do, and then when I went out from the kitchen, I saw something. As I went out from the kitchen, I saw something go by the window that was out to the window that was facing the stairs to the deck.
Okay.
So this thing had gone from like the corner, the right corner of the house, past the window that I was looking at first, and then round the corner and past the other window. So I knew that whatever this was, I was going to see it when I passed the window in the stairs.
Right.
So when I walked out from the kitchen, and I went towards the stairs, I saw something. The only thing I remember that I saw something big and black standing in the window, and this window is it's high up from the ground. We have real tall houses in Sweden.
Yeah.
So it was like high up from the ground, and I saw just a black mass, like something really, I couldn't make out a shape or anything. I saw something black, and I saw two red eyes. They were like red and orange, but they were more red than orange. And I saw it clear as day, and that scared like the hell out of me. I got so scared, because I felt that, what is this? And then I blinked, because I closed my eyes and then opened them again, and it was gone. So first I thought that, well, I'm alone. It was like a stormy weather outside, or not really storm, but there was some wind and leaves, and they were like storm, not really stormy storm, but a small storm outside.
Yeah.
So first I thought that, well, it's stormy outside, I'm alone, and it's dark, so it's my imagination playing with my mind, because I'm tired.
Yeah.
But then I said to myself, okay, I'm just gonna go upstairs and go to bed and deal with this in the morning. And then I walked past the door to the outside. And when I walked past the door, I had my left shoulder towards the door. So I looked slightly over to the door, and I saw that everything, like the glass, was black. And the thing is that we have a light on the porch that always is lit, because it was like this. Yeah, it's a light bulb on the porch that is lit all day and all night.
Right.
And I couldn't see that light. That light was gone. It was black as night. And this light is like we always keep it. We always like if the light bulb crashes or it doesn't work, we change it so it always are lit. It was lit.
Yeah, so you feel like something was standing in front of it?
Yeah,
like someone was covering it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was my first thought because I couldn't see. I only saw in the small windows to the door. I only saw black.
Right.
So I knew that something is standing in front of this lamp blocking the light out. And that scared me. So I thought that, okay, and my first thought that it couldn't be a human because a human wouldn't take up that much space in front of the door. Because if a human stood or a person stood in front of the door, you still could see the light.
Right.
And then you saw the shape of a person. So I knew that this was much bigger. And then I saw how it moved back. And I started to see like really tall ears, like a Doberman, really tall ears. And they were really pointy, like almost really, really pointy. And then I saw like the shape of it, like it go like saw the shape of a head, and then shape of shoulders. But then at the shoulders, after the shoulders, I didn't see anything. It was like a really black mass. But I saw like shoulders and head and this pointy ears. And then I thought that, well, that scared me. And I thought that must be the thing that stood outside the window. And actually my first thought was that this was a real Dogman. I thought that, okay, this is a real Dogman, so it's flesh and blood. So, and that didn't scare me as that it scared me, but I was more scared that if it's not flesh and blood, it can come into the house. But if it's flesh and blood and it wants to come into the house, it will do it anyway. But I don't know, my mind just made a loop because I didn't know what I saw. Well, I couldn't embrace what I saw. So my mind was like, okay, this is a real animal. It's flesh and blood, so you can harm it. That was my first question. My first thought: I can harm this thing if I want to, but if it wants to eat me, it's gonna eat me anyway. But I can try to harm it. But then my other thought was that this must be the thing I saw in the window. And then I felt like this is evil. I really felt that this is really evil. I have felt this before when that thing happened when my friend got scratched on her neck. But this wasn't really like that. But I felt like this was evil. I felt that this thing wanted to come into the house, and this thing wanted to scare me. But it felt like it couldn't come into the house if I didn't invite it.
Right.
That was my feeling. And I felt like almost like something wanted me. I felt compelled to go and open the door, but I said to myself, no, don't go near the door. Don't go open the door because this is bad. This is really, really bad.
Yeah.
And the door was locked. And then when I felt, because it sounds almost crazy, but I felt like a thought in my head that said, go and open the door, but it was not my thought. I felt like something told me to go and, Evelina, go and open the door. But I felt like this wasn't my thoughts. I wouldn't do that. So I said to myself, no, don't go and open the door. Go upstairs and call your husband and say you have to come home because scary things are happening and I don't want to be alone. So, and as I tried, I took some steps back and tried to silently walk up the stairs. I tried silently slid out of there so I could walk up the stairs. And as I moved back, this thing grabbed the handle and how do you say? It grabbed the handle and pushed the handle up and down, up and down,
it
up
jiggled
and down,
it?
really fast.
Yeah.
It jiggled. It jiggled it to see if it was locked.
Yeah, it
Give it a
jiggled to
shimmy.
see if, and the door was locked. It was really. It wasn't like slow. It wasn't really. It wasn't like I'm gonna see if the door is open. So I do this slow. It was really. It was aggressive.
Yeah.
Really up and down, and and it felt like, and it started to pull the door, like, because I heard the door like boom, 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 like it pulled the door, and and I heard like the door was pulled like back and forth, like it's trying to get in.
Yeah.
And that was the most. I mean, I almost died. I felt like I'm gonna die. This thing, whatever it is going to come into the house, kill me, kill my children, and my husband's gonna find us just dead,
Right.
without a trace. Because I felt that this is not flesh and blood. This is something else. Because I almost saw myself and my kids dead with nothing, like no blood, nothing. We were just dead.
Yeah.
So in this moment, I actually called on angels. I'm not a Christian or so, but I do believe in God, and I do believe in the angels, but I'm not really into any religion.
Right.
But I do believe in like a higher power and the angels and so forth. So I called upon the angels, and I called my guardian angels, everything, and I even called on relatives that I know are dead, but I know that they are with us still. And I called like everything I could think of. I called on the angels. I called out to God. I prayed to God, like, please help me. I don't know what to do. I'm so scared. And I actually started to cry and shake. And I was scared for my life. I never been that scared from something paranormal, like not like that.
Yeah.
And I was so scared, like I actually broke down and cried for God, cried for the angels. And when I cried for the angels and God, I felt like this. I just felt that I was loved and protected. I felt like instant calm and love and protection.
Warm.
And then I felt that everything was going to be fine. And when I opened my eyes, this thing was gone. Then I saw the light again from the outside, from the porch light.
Yeah.
And after that, I walked up to, or more, I ran up the stairs and I called my husband. And I didn't know what to tell him, because, as I said, he does believe in these things. He does. But if I had told him back then that I saw a werewolf, because that was the only thing I could make it out to be, like if I would say to him that I saw a werewolf standing outside our door and was trying to get in, he would think that I had been. He wouldn't believe that.
Yeah.
He wouldn't believe that I saw something, but he wouldn't more believe that my imagination, or that he would believe that I had scared myself, because that can happen to anyone. But he would think that I had like scared myself of being alone and with the kids and so on. So that's the most scariest thing that's happened.
So that is the most scary. That would pretty much take the cake.
That sounds pretty terrifying.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty bad. Once again, how big do you think this thing was?
Well, to reach up to that window, it must have been at least 2 meters tall, I think, because that window in the window in the hallway, on the wall to the staircase, it sits a bit higher up because you have the staircase underneath. So for it to reach up to that window, it must have been at least 2 meters tall.
So like 6
to look
foot.
into it.
So at least 6.5 feet, maybe.
Because my husband, he is 170 centimeters, and when he stands outside that window, he can barely look into the window, and he's really tall.
Right.
So he can, like, if he stands, you see like the top of his head and his eyes. That's what you see if you stand inside and he stands outside the window. So it has to be like 2 meters to have its face, like that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty big. That's a pretty tall creature. And when you saw this thing, it was like a shadow, right?
Yeah, it was a shadow.
Yeah. Did it look like it was? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It was more like a shadow. But when I saw it past the kitchen windows, when I think back on everything, when I saw it past the kitchen windows, it looked more like a shadow passing. There was not like, it didn't look like something of flesh and blood.
There weren't any
passing.
like features or anything that you could kind of point out, maybe that were more solidified or.
No, nothing like that. It was like a black shadow, almost as black as the night.
Right.
I could just only see like something black, like a shadow in the black moving around. So it didn't have features or anything.
Yeah.
And when it was standing in the doorway, could you see its eyes again, or?
Yeah, I could see its eyes, because first I only saw that the porch light was out, that it wasn't lit, and then I saw like this black thing or black mass in both the windows, like taking up all the door, like it was bigger than the door. And when I started to, because at first I walked a little bit closer because I was unsure that maybe the light switch was off to the light, or maybe it had gotten broken or something. So I moved forward like two, 3 steps.
Right.
And when I did that, I saw the eyes again, like and the eyes was in each window. So in one window there was one eye, and in the other window there's another eye. And they were red.
Wow. There are a lot of people who've had these ethereal encounters. My wife had one when she was a kid. She was a child in California. Zane, you had one in
New Orleans.
Yeah.
In New Orleans.
Yeah, I had one right close to where I used to live, down by St. Roch Park, if anybody knows that area. But yeah, St. Roch Cemetery. I had seen something kind of similar to that. Yours was much more scary than mine. Mine didn't really have a feeling to it because I guess I was kind of far away and I wasn't really having to deal with it. But I was coming home from work one night, and there's the way the cemeteries are down there, because it's below sea level. They make kind of like these monuments, these kind of tomb looking things that like stick out of the ground, and then they fence them off. So the walls are very high because obviously they don't want people to go and, tag them or do, bad stuff to them or whatever. So I would say that the walls are probably at least 7.5 feet tall. And one night I had walked by and I had kind of glanced over there, and then something caught my eye, and I saw very, very like distinct, like wolf head features, but I couldn't see like any, eyes or, fur or like anything like that. But it was more just the shape, like the silhouette of it was very obvious to me. And down there, they have something called the loop guru, and it's kind of within their cultures, like that's more of like a guardian of spirits or like protector of the dead. And I didn't know that at the time, but it just kind of freaked me out because it was this very, very tall silhouette of what I thought looked like a wolf, and it was walking upright, and it was well above the fence. And if the fence was like 7.5 feet, then this thing had to have been like at least 8.5, 9 feet tall, because it was well past shoulders and like everything else. But it was just walking kind of through like the inside of the cemetery. Yeah, I mean, that's the first time that I had ever seen anything like that, and I haven't seen anything like that since.
Thankfully for you.
Right.
And thankfully it wasn't, aggressive like this one was.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I would have been in big trouble. A lot of trouble. But, so yeah, I mean, that's my experience. So like, I mean, I definitely feel for you, and I have seen something very similar to what you had described.
Would you say that voice that you heard do you think that maybe that was its voice, and it was trying to get you to open up the door, and that's why it got angry when you were trying to walk away, basically?
Right.
And that's why it was like,
yeah.
So like it telepathically spoke to you. It was trying to get you to open up the door.
By projecting or something.
Yeah, I think so, because I felt like the thoughts, like the speech and the thoughts that came up in my head, like, you should go and open. It was like this: you should go and open the door, or can you open the door for me? It was like similar to that. I don't really remember exactly,
Right.
but it felt like this wasn't my thoughts. It was something was put in my mind,
Something
like,
alien.
open for me.
Yeah.
Like open the door for me, please. Or because first it felt like go and open the door, like friendly in quotes,
Right. Yeah.
like friendly, like can you please open the door for me or open the door for me? But then it was like open the door, like it was more aggressive.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel like I wouldn't word it that way. It wasn't not my words, wasn't my thought. I felt that it was something that was put in my mind.
That's
so
just
I
something
think
that it was like trying to convey to you, maybe.
Yeah, because if it was your own thought,
Yeah.
you would say, I should open the door. Or,
Right,
yeah. So it was obviously speaking in a different perspective.
Yeah.
Wow. Evelina, this has been an interesting conversation. It's been very eye-opening, and we are going to have to wrap it up. But appreciate you coming on. And I know over there where you're at, it's probably already almost 4 in the morning.
Yeah, it's getting late.
So, yeah, you probably have to work tomorrow, too. And I appreciate you staying up and coming on the show and talking with us and giving us these amazing encounters. I would say amazing. I guess that's not the word. It's frightening for you, but amazing for the listeners. Makes good radio. Thanks for putting your fear out there. But yeah, if you're welcome to come back on, and we can do this again whenever you get together. We can do it again. Have some more of your encounters on the show, and I appreciate you coming on and talking about this. This ethereal Dogman is something that a lot of people are uncomfortable talking about. Even people that believe in these Dogman, werewolf things, whatever, they don't want to talk about these ethereal ones that people see. For years and years, the one that I saw, I always thought it was flesh and blood. And then back in December, I've said this before, that, my friend's brother said that he saw some sort of black vapor coming off its back. So I don't know what that is. When it happened, it was in October and it wasn't that cold. So it wasn't some sort of like steam or anything like that. I don't know. October over here is not like deep freezer over there. It's like still warm over here. So I was like, when you were saying September is like dark and it's cold, it's like September's hot as
it's
hot as all get out up here. I mean, it's
dark and cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very dark and cold up there and dreary. But the trade-off is that you don't have to deal with the Texas heat. So
yeah, September is like it's like thankfully it's 90 degrees because it's not 110 anymore.
Yeah, because August will just cook you, will roast you. Here in Texas. But we appreciate you coming on, and thank you for talking to us. And for everyone at the PRT team, I want to tell everybody thanks for listening, and have a good night.
Good.